Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and today I'm going to discuss Super7's brand new Ninja April and Karai. Both of these action figures were from Wave 10 of Super7's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates. I'm sure everyone remembers Wave 10 because that was the most controversial wave that Super7 has put out of these TMNT Ultimates. It was controversial because at the time they included a Rat King, and that Rat King was in a brand new style. You know, he did not match the old Playmates toys like all the other Ultimates had done before that. Well, except for Gorilla, who we got as a replacement for Sergeant Bananas. So anyways, back then, that Rat King like really rocked the fan base. You know, people were not happy about it. I was even taken aback. So I made a lengthy video complaining about it. Eventually, after a few days, Super7 decided to pull the Rat King action figure and replace him with Karai, who I believe was originally intended to be a fifth figure in Wave 10, but for whatever reason, they decided to cut it down to the 4 at the last moment. I don't know why. They posted one picture with the 5 of them, and then when the pre-orders actually went up, it was just the 4. But still, Wave 10 for me was just kind of like a kind of wave. I mean, you had a Casey Jones variant, who I passed on because it just didn't make sense to me to have a Mirage variant Casey in a series that sort of matches the old toy line when I could just buy the NECA Mirage Casey that goes well with the Mirage Ninja Turtles. And then you had 2 humans and a turtle. Like, where were all the cool monster mutants? You know, they weren't included. Now, I do really like this classic Rocker Leo, and hopefully at some point maybe I'll get to reviewing him, but I wanted to review these two first for a couple reasons. First, I wanted to talk about them because these are pretty much brand new action figures in this Ultimates line. They're not really based on anything that came out before. Ninja April kind of is, but she really isn't. I mean, you could say that they took some inspiration from April, the ninja newscaster, but I mean, all they really took from that was like the white bandana head. I mean, like nothing about her body looks the same at all. You could also say that the accessories she has are kind of based off of that action figure. Like you got the camera right there, but like none of the weapons here include the uniqueness that the old accessories had. Now, I don't have that action figure, so I can't compare this. Like I can't even compare this to that action figure, but trust me, there's not much to really compare. The other reason why I wanted to talk about these at the same time is because essentially they're kind of like palette swaps, you know? They do have some unique parts, especially in the torso. Like she's got that little bottom part of the top there. She's got like the gun holster and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it crosses over. Like the legs are pretty much the same. The forearms are the same. There's even parts about her upper torso here that are included on Karai. They just added like, you know, the extra padding or armor or whatever it is. Even the package layout is very similar. You have the figure in the middle, which is to be expected, but then you have the extra heads on both sides of the figure. You have this column of weapons. You have 1, 2, 3, and then right here you got 1, 2, 3. And then behind that, you have another layer of weapons. You have the bow and you have the sickle weapon. Behind there, you have the sword and the bow. So you got 2 or 3 in front and 2 in the back. On the other side, it's a little different because she only has 1 nunchuck in the back, and she has 3 arrows in the back. But right here, you have this big column of hands and ninja stars. So you got the same types of ninja stars, and all these hands, these sets of hands, match Karai's. You know, they're the same exact hands in the same exact spot. The only difference I can see is this hand right here. She's kind of got like 2 of her fingers like this. And then Karai, this hand, she's kind of like pointing with her finger. So, like, that's the only difference between these 2 sets of hands. And I don't know, like, maybe it was the same with the turtles, but there's just something about this just seems very calculated and just laid out to be very similar. I don't know. Both of these action figures cost $55 a piece. which is, you know, a lot, but it's also the norm for Super 7 Ultimates. As I said, these figures, when I saw them way back when, I had kind of just the feeling of, eh. So I'm hoping in this video, I go from to, all right, you know, that's cool. You know, hopefully I didn't just throw $110 out the window. Hopefully these two gals will be worth it. So as I said, both of these figures were $55 a piece. They were put up for pre-order all the way back in March of 2023. I got these on August 4th, 2024, so 16 months later. They did not include any slipcovers or brown mailers. That, I think, is going to be the norm. I really think that they should have kept the slipcovers at least. You know, those at least look nice. I would imagine everybody's thrown the brown mailers out, but keep the slipcovers. You know, it added an extra something to these toys. Made them feel a little special. I ordered both of these from Big Bad Toy Store, and you can still order them there, although maybe you might want to wait until they eventually go down in price. As you can see here, the windows are very large, so you can see the full figure. You can see all of their accessories, for the most part. Because April is a good guy and Karai is a bad guy, April has a green brick scheme and Karai has a blue brick scheme. On the back, April's bio reads, Ninja April, newscaster turned foot slasher, trained by Splinter and her 4 best turtle pals. April O'Neil has unlocked Ninja Newscaster mode. This reporter knows how to make her own headline by making a beeline to the Foot's eyeline. Oh my gosh. Breaking a lot more than just the news. This brand new black belt never settled to sit on the sidelines, and now with her very own bow staff, sai, katana blade, and microchucks, this judo-throwing journalist can get right in the Foot's face with perfect precision to get every question answered, thanks to her own hard-hitting investigation skills. April's redefining knockout because yellow never looks so tough. We can already see the top story. Ace reporter, April O'Neil, fights Foot with Foot. All right, that's pretty good. Very wordy, though. On Karai's side, her bio reads, Karai, the Foot's femme fatale. Is she Leonardo's dream come true, or the turtle's worst nightmare? Either way, it's time to get up, because Karai is here. More spice than sugar. This cunning Kanuchi is armed and ready to slice and stomp her own brand of Foot justice. The antithesis to Team Green. After Shredder's devastating defeat, she arrived in NYC, looking every bit as sharp as her pointy predecessor. Shrouded in secrecy with mysterious motivations all her own, she gives our half-shelled heroes an offer too good to refuse. Help her end the gang war and the Shredder's elite, and she will offer a truce with the Foot. They're not sure they can trust her, but who knew Leo's favorite frenemy and first crush would be a Foot? Okay, so with Leonardo, like, liking her or having a crush on her and stuff like that, I don't really remember that being in the Mirage comics at all. I mostly remember that being in the 2012 series. Now, I think she does... A lot of that bio is based off of City at War, and I do think Leonardo kind of has talks to her a lot, but I don't think it's ever really like a romantic thing. So obviously, I think for the most part, Super 7 here was very much inspired by the Mirage comic books. Oh, and hey, look at this. If you look at the bios, you can actually see the super covers that would have been included on front of the slip covers. Right, you know, you got the head in the middle, and then to the side you could see the weapons next to the heads. All right, so going back to the front here. There's not much else really to say. You just got the logo up top. Down at the bottom, it does not tell you who made these like NECA does. It just says contents, one figure with accessories. You know, same deal with Karai. So now it's time for me to open these gals up and move them around. Hopefully nothing's broken. Hopefully they pose all right and they don't have loose joints. Please don't have loose joints. And I will talk to you in a second. So here they are, free from their prison of cardboard and plastic, ready to grab your attention and take you on a journey into a new unexplored land of Super7 TMNT creativity, or give you a reason to drop off and spend your money elsewhere. All right, look, I know I'm being like a little negative here, but as a collector, I like to think I know how other collectors think. Collectors like stability and uniformity. Once you start changing the package design, the style of characters, and, the series mission statement from being upgrades of Playmate's action figures into, wherever they're going now, some people will start to drop off. It's only natural. Let me ask you a serious question here. If you just come into this video fresh, like you don't know what these toys were made for, do these action figures look like what you think Ninja Turtles Ultimates action figures should look like? Just be honest in the comments, let me know. Personally, I don't know. They don't seem to match the same amount of detail that those other action figures had. And I'm going to get into that, very excessively in a little bit. But, the thing is, now that Super7 has to cut back on Playmate's designs and head towards Mirage action figures and 2003 action figures and unique figures, they need to do whatever they can to make these action figures as desirable as possible. They really need to grab your attention so they can grab your wallet. They need to leave collectors thinking, well, I'm bummed that I can't have the Playmates upgrades, but holy shit, did you see that Super7 Karai? They gotta wow us, So how did these female fighters fare for the future of Super7? They fare fine, One, in my opinion, tends to fend better than the other one, but I mostly like both of them. I think both of these action figures are fun and appealing, and I can sort of get over my attachment to the old Playmates toys and accept these for what they are. In a minute, I'm going to show you these two next to a ton of past Ultimates, and we can see how well they fit in with the series overall. But like I said, just at first glance, if you look at these things, I don't think they necessarily scream Ninja Turtle Ultimates. Like, they should have went like crazy with these action figures, like put in some torn knees or something like that, like added some extra detail to make them 90s approved. So eventually we'll get there. But first up, let's talk about April. So April is dressed in a banana yellow gi. And with that green trim, I think she looks a lot like the Turtle Van. Maybe she's cosplaying as the Turtle Van. I think her standard head is very nice. I think the expression looks really good. I think the sculptor did a really good job with that face. In fact, I think it's one of the better female faces that Super7 has produced. I kind of think maybe when I look at the face, I don't necessarily think April. That's not necessarily a bad thing that I don't get that feeling. It's just a little different than, the standard April face. But I guess it's mostly an upgraded version of the Ninja Newscaster April from 1992. So, that face doesn't look like standard April from 1988 either. I like the expression on April's face. I think it suits the figure very well. I think like I said, I think the sculpting of the face looks really nice. The cheekbones and everything like that. The lips look great. Even the paint on the lips is very nice and clean. I like whatever method they use to put those like eyeballs on her face. Like, what do they do? They remind me of those like shrink wrap things you put on Easter eggs. I'm not sure exactly what they do, but obviously they're printing these on the head in some way. But the whole thing just comes out really nice and clean. The only slop I have is this little bit of white there on the hair from, when they were painting the headband. But other than that, like, the face looks great. Actually, there's probably more paint slop on this action figure than I noticed at first. Around the neck, it seems pretty rough. All around the neck, actually. And even around the bandana, it seems maybe it might be a little, I don't know, rougher than I had originally thought. There is a little bit of a, like a weird green hue or something on the tip of her nose. And it's on not just the standard head, but also the Electra Ninja Cap head. I don't know what's up with that greenness of the nose. If maybe it's not like completely mixed, or like the flesh tone isn't completely mixed or something like that. Like maybe it's a little thinner there. So maybe green was a part of this, what they used to make the skin plastic. I don't know, but somehow there's a little bit of green there. I think the hair looks really good. Like I think all of the groups and strands work well together to create like this nice flowing look. You know, I think that sculptors have failed many times at trying to make long hair look good. And I think the sculptor did a really nice job pulling this off. I think in the wrong hands, this style could have looked very messy and overdone. But, you know, like I said, it looks really good here. The Electra style head, I think, is also well done. I think the other head is nicer, though. I like it more. You know, this is probably good if you're really trying to make her look like a ninja. But again, the hair looks really nice. It's all clumped together really well. And the face is nice and clean. I don't have any problems at all with that. I think maybe the neck might be a little more noticeable or something like that with this head. Like, is it a little smaller than the other one? And then the katana mask head looks really good too. I think, you know, here she has the classic April haircut. And it looks fine, you know, like I said before, the clumps and the strands and the groups of hair, the layers, all really work well together. And there's a little bit of a wash in all of these heads to put a little bit of black in the strands to make it stand out. So this head is another good head. And other than that Electra head, I think this one looks a little better on the neck. Like I said, I think maybe there was something about that head that seemed a little too small. This one actually looks like it perfectly fits there just fine. If you were hoping to swap the new Ninja April heads with the standard April body, I have some bad news. It is not going to work, all right? Unfortunately, the peg on the original April is very small. And this brand new April has a much larger peg. And if you try to put the old head on the new body, it won't fit because her peg hole is too small. And if you put the brand new head on the old body, the peg is too big, and then the head like just kind of sinks down into the shoulders like this. She looks like Meryl Streep after she got hit in the head and Death Becomes Her. Doesn't work. Moving down into the torso, here's where I think things get a little buggy, because April suffers from the usual Super7 shrunken torso syndrome, all right? And it's very noticeable, especially when you look at, I guess, her waist, where it sits in the belt. Like, look how much room there is between her waist and the belt. This is just like the Casey Jones action figure that they put out. They had the same exact problem, where in all the promo shots, it looked perfectly fine, but then when you got the actual figure, the torso was shrunk, and then you had this giant gap where the upper torso connected to the pelvis. I just think if her torso was a little bigger, she would be perfect. You know, I think because her torso seems to be shrunken a little bit, it doesn't really match like her pelvis. Like, I feel like her legs are too big for her body or something. Almost like the top of her body is on the wrong bottom half. I don't think I'm nitpicking here, but let me know if I am. If you look at her in a 3/4 pose, it's, I think, maybe not as bad. I think maybe the legs look a little better with the upper torso, but dead on, they definitely look very large compared to the torso. And if you look at it from the back, I mean, her back is super skinny, and then her legs are really big down at the bottom. I think the size of her torso also looks a little weird when you look at the size of her shoulders. I think her shoulders are too big for her body. They just look a little large, a little too wide. And they also kind of stick out far from her body, so that when you have like the arm kind of bent out, it just kind of creates this weird gap right here. Like the shoulder should have been pushed in more, or the torso should have been bigger, and then, the part of her gi should have covered more of the actual shoulder blade. I don't understand why that happens with their torso sometimes. But, like, I don't know. I feel like if you look at her shoulder and then maybe you look at something like Steelheart, there's more of a natural flow to the shoulder, to the, like, bicep, tricep area. Here, her shoulder appears a little too big, and then also her bicep is, like, very tiny. Like, and I don't know, there's not much definition in that either, so it just kind of looks like there's a pink plastic straw connecting the shoulder to the forearm. I might be being a little critical here, I guess, but I don't know. I'm just winging it. Ideas are coming to my mind as I'm looking at this. I also think that, she has the wrap arms like Karai does. And they obviously didn't want to paint, like, the elbows, the skin color. But, like, the elbows should be the skin color and not the wrap color. Like, it's weird. Even if you look at Karai, the wraps end, and then the elbow is the black of her suit or whatever you call it. And look at that. Even, like, her bicep is a little more natural looking, because it's supposed to be, like, baggy fabric material. In the promo shots, her elbows were indeed skin tone, so maybe they decided to cut that corner once they brought her to the factory. If you were wondering, just this arm is completely mirrored with this arm. It's just all the same thing, just on opposite sides, mirrored. I do kind of wish that maybe they would have given her some unique details on both sides, because that was one of the greatest things about the old Ninja Turtle line, and something that you would hope that would continue in this series. Even if they can't make Playmates designs, you would still want them to carry on in the spirit. Maybe have like different things going on the right arm and the left arm. Maybe having some rips in the pants or anything like that. That could have been nice. I mean, this action figure basically has no detail in the pants. There are some subtle wrinkles down here where the pants end and the leg wraps begin. But they're so subtle, they almost might as well not be there. There's no line down the side to make it look like it's stitched together or anything like that. And if you, want to continue to talk about wrinkles and stuff like that, even if you go back up to the top of her shirt, like, there are some wrinkles here in the back, but not much of anything. They're just kind of there. They're very subtle. There's just not much to be seen here with this figure. Like, I feel like these are supposed to be baggy pants, right? So they should still have a bunch of wrinkles. There should be some, you should be creating more of an illusion of cloth or something like that. Because right now, there's just not much of anything. The original figure, had some deeper wrinkles down here at the bottom of the pants before they go into the boots. Then you had the the nice line down. I mean, if you wanted to keep her like April themed, you maybe could have had like a stripe going down. There is even like a little bit of a darker yellow shading there, but it's so, the contrast is just not enough to really make much of a difference. And even in the shirt, she's got lots of wrinkles here to kind of create that look of cloth on top of a solid form underneath. If you compare her to standard April, as I said before, all of those things like really stand out. Like the wrinkles are harsher and more noticeable here on this original April. And there's just more detail. You know, you got pockets and stuff like that. Like, even up here, there's pockets. I don't know. There's just something about her that just has a little bit of that extra detail that makes the design a little more interesting. Although I will say this, I do like how her knees are actually in the middle of her legs now. Like here you had these giant thighs, and then, you know, the knees were really low, almost down to the feet. And compared to the other humans in this series, I think most of the other humans, their knees are more in the middle of their legs. So this April was just kind of weird at the time. Another thing I like about this new Ninja April compared to the original April is the neck. You know, I think that looks a lot better, how there's more of a space between her head and her chest, where here the head, you know, is very low. You know, the neck is not defined at all, really. Ninja April being a little taller, I think actually makes her fit in a little better with the other Ultimates. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. Let's turn this around and take a look. Another thing, I don't know, I feel like there's not much going on with like the arch of her back or something like that. Like maybe the new figure might be a little stiffer than the old one, where the old one has a little bit more of I don't know, like attitude, or maybe like a little more life to her. The new one, the back seems like very straight. I wish the sculptor would have made the figure a little less stiff. You know, as a toy collector, you are collecting toys, but you want the figures to feel as though they come alive as you pose them, right? But by not having an arch for the back or a decent ab crunch, you know, these figures, they start to feel like supersized reaction figures. You know, they're very stiff, very straight up and down. The existence of an ab crunch could help out with the line of action for the back, because I can tell you right now, already I know, like, I'm not going to be able to put her in, you know, exaggerated ninja fighting poses or anything like that. I think proportionally, maybe her body is better, though. Like, I don't know. There's things I like about the original April, and there's things I like about the new April. I feel like neither is like the greatest April ever made or anything like that. Next up, April's articulation. So April has, I don't know, pretty much what you would expect from Super 7 at this point with their Ultimates action figures. You have there's a ball joint in the base of the head, and there's also a ball joint at the base of the neck. But really, I feel like you don't get much, I don't know, the peg that comes out of the neck doesn't really move that much. So you're just pretty much using the articulation at the base of the head. And I gotta say, it's not the best. You know, it's like, you can look down a little bit. You really can't look up that much. There's not much space, I think, between her chin and the neck. So, like, I don't know. It doesn't work out so good. And, you know, from removing the head and replacing switching it out with the other ones, now I got like a little bit of a wobbly head thing going on, which is bullshit. I can't, man, super tired of these loose Super 7 joints. The shoulders here rotate all the way around, and they have a hinge. There's like a ratchet joint in there, so the shoulders stop once you get to a certain point. I kind of feel like, you know, in a way, ratchet joints are good because they'll stay in place, but they're also kind of bad because it's like you either get them stuck in those certain spots and you can't really get in the middle of them. So, like, you're going up about this high with the shoulder, and then, like, you can't really hold it anywhere, and then you're just, like, down like that. And that's pretty much... There we go. There's another one. All right, so we got 3 positions for the arm. And as I said before, I feel like the shoulder just looks kind of weird. Look how it, like, bulges down here at the bottom. It's like her armpit is swollen or something like that. The bicep here swivels around, and the elbow joint swivels around. You have a hinge there at the elbow. You can't really I wouldn't say that's a full 90 degrees. That's about as far as you can go. The wrists here swivel, and there's also a hinge. It's like if you want to try to put the arm, you can't touch her face, but that's, you know, single jointed elbows will do that. That's not that big of a deal, but I feel like it would be nice to be able to bend it a little further than that. You can go backwards though. There's no articulation in the torso. You have a waist swivel. I think it's more of a ball, but you try to move the waist and it just pops back in. It kind of moves back into place. It's a little tight. Plus also once you start to move it, you start to get these weird gaps. Her waist also allows her to bend backwards, but not much. And if you do start to bend backwards, the gap here with the belt, you'll start to see that peg that connects her pelvis to her torso. And she really can't bend forward much at all. The hips here have a ball joint hip. You can move forward. You can move outward like that. You also have rotation this direction. The knees swivel. And once again, you know, I feel like you have the same problem with the knees that you do with the, I guess the shoulders. Because, like, you're stuck in either, like, a straight position, this position, or just a little bit beyond that. You can't get a full 90-degree bend. You're just kind of stuck there and there. So, you know, that's definitely going to limit the amount of poses you can do with her. She does have boot cuts. And they can spin. Oh, come on. They will spin all the way around. Come on, you stupid leg. There we go. I also noticed one of her legs doesn't have the dry brushing that the other leg has on the wraps. You see that? One is just kind of like the plain plastic, and the other one has the extra white paint on top. The ankle has a hinge, and there's also ankle rockers. And that is all she's got. Wobbly heads, man, it's like, that bugs me. That really bugs me. Like, because the head's going to be flopping all over the place now. Let's talk about accessories. And first we're going to talk about the weapons that are sort of based on the weapons that she had back when she was Ninja Newscaster April, you know. Back then, she had one of each of the Ninja Turtles' weapons. Now, I have to do a little bit more research, but I do know that that nunchuck looks like a standard Mikey nunchuck, and the sword there later came with movie 3 April, but I'm a little unsure about the sai and the bow. If I have those, I don't remember who they belong to. Here, with this brand new Ninja April, all they did was recolor the weapons that came with the standard Ninja Turtles. And that was a mistake, all right? Because they should have at least shrunk these things to help April hold them. So all of these weapons have the wraps or the gripping painted yellow, which is cool, you know, because it matches April's yellow. This thing right here in the original series was called the Broadcasting Bow. But look how thick this thing is, you know? It is very thick. And look how small her actual, like, grip is. It is tiny. So I'm going to have to stretch the shit out of the hands. And you know what happens when that happens? Eventually, you reach a point where the hands won't even be able to hold things because they, you know, they're too loose. But look at this. I can't even move the thumb out of the way. And I'm using the... because it's a bow, I'm using the hands with the, I guess a vertical hinge. That way you can actually, like, make it look like she's swinging it instead of the vertical one. But my gosh. On this gripping hand, it looks as though the thumb is connected to the fingers. So I'm going to have to cut that. Alright, so both gripping hands were connected at the thumb and the pointer finger. But I got her to hold the bow. I think it looks way too big for her, and as I said with the Donatello review, this bow is just too small. It doesn't look like you can actually, like, fight with this thing. Another problem is, look at this. I got this loose wrist right here. And I've talked about the loose wrists before with the Ultimates, you know, where you got to push the hand further in to get it to click like 2 times or something. No, this is as far as it goes in, and this is how loose it is. Up next, you have April's cool katana blade. And again, I feel like this is too big. Like the handle is just so big for her hand. And I can't remember which hinge I said I was using before. You know, did I say, is this the vertical hinge and this is the horizontal hinge? I have her with the vertical hinge hand, right? And this one spins all around like I showed you with the bow, which sucks. Because if I'm trying to hold it, or like you want to pose her in certain poses, she can't support this blade. But you want to use this hand with this joint because this is the one that kind of tilts forward. So if you wanted to make her look like she's slashing somebody, that's the hand you got to use. It's just, I mean, look at that. It's no good. I don't know. Does the size of these weapons not bother you? Let me know. I just feel like they're way too big. Man, I almost didn't even notice this. But check it out. She has a little slit in her belt where you can put her sword. Oh, that's... it kind of doesn't really fit so good in there. No, I would not say that that's not the greatest thing ever. Next up is April's newsmaking nunchaku. Her hands are just stretched really, really far to get her to hold this weapon. And last, you have April's Scoop'em Sai. This one I think is probably the best out of all of them because it's smaller in size. The handle, I don't know, it's still big, but I don't know, it looks okay in her hand. It's not like extremely long like the katana was. I think the weird thing is with the katana is, or with the sai, is she has 2 sai holsters, but she only has 1 sai. Up next, you have a weapon that is completely brand new to this action figure, or series, I guess, and that's these microphone chucks. And I think these are the best weapons, probably, that she's got, because the handles are small. They actually fit in her hand. They're made, you know, to fit in her hands. And, I don't know, I just think that the design is kind of funny, you know? It's... You know, it says Channel 6 News. Well, it doesn't say channel, but 6 News. W, TMNT, Press. So I think that's a good idea. You know, I think that's a nice use of the Ninja Turtle brand to make some kind of new item. I do maybe think they're a little oversized. Like these blocks here, they look huge. I'd have to see microphones like this in real life to see how big they should be, but I think it's a cool weapon. I like that they actually have a real chain here. That's really cool. Kind of wish they would have given you the chain nunchucks instead of this vinyl one. But I like these. Up next, you have April's samurai style camera, and this is very nice. I like all the paint that they put on here. The blacks, the little yellow highlights, the blue lens. I don't know what's so samurai about it. Even in the back here, there's a little bit of red. We've actually seen this camera before. It came with the Undercover Turtle Raphael. That I believe at the time wasn't that a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive? I know that's where I got it. You can still get it there if you want it. As I said before, this is the only item that looks very similar to the original item. I guess maybe the nunchucks do, but I don't have the original samurai style camera, but I can show you this side of the camera and show you the picture on tmnttoys.com so you can see how the details line up. And then I can show you this side of the camera and show you the camera again on TMNTtoys.com, but only now the one that was included with the original undercover Raphael. So again, you can see how the details lined up. They're pretty good. You know, they did a good job of copying that design. April has two of these hands where two of her fingers are trigger fingers. That way she can push down the button. So you can make her either right-handed or left-handed when holding the camera. Next up, April has two ninja stars, and these are just the same ninja stars that we've seen before. As I always say, I really like the metallic paint on these because it makes them look a little more realistic. They're also usually pretty sharp. She can hold these both with her two trigger finger hands and also the standard gripping hands. And finally, April has a ton of hands. She's got 5 sets of hands. She has gripping hands with vertical hinges, as I talked about before. She also has gripping hands with horizontal hinges. She's got these 2 trigger fingers so that she can hold the camera with either her right or left hand. She also has a set of, oh my gosh, I'm knocking these all over the place. She's got a set of fists for punching the foot in the face. And she also has these open palm hands. I wouldn't call these expressive hands or grabbing hands, you know, because they're not very expressive. They only look like they have one purpose, and that's to make karate chops. Up next is Karai, and in my opinion, this figure works better than April. I kind of think Karai's head is a little bigger than April's, and because of that, I think it works better with the rest of the body. Like, April's head was, like, okay, but it does appear smaller than Karai's, like the actual, where the face is. Yeah, it's a lot smaller. And, like, her chin is very close to the neck. She almost is kind of like pencil necked or something. But Karai, there's a nice space here between the chin and the neck. I think the expression on Karai's face is magnificent. She looks like somebody you would not want to mess with. And I think the paint looks really good, like eyebrows and the lipstick, and once again, that like printed eyeball technique they use, that looks really good too. I really like the blue in her hair. It reminds me a lot of comic book art, and it really makes the hair stand out and pop. Like I said, I think they did a really good job of making this Karai face. It's just sometimes they make character faces and they look a little wonky. I feel like there's not really much of anything wonky about this. It looks good. And the expression and the proportions of the face just look great, you know. You know, something I really like is you go to the back of the head. I love how the bandana comes out of the hair like that. Like the hair is actually draped over the bandana. I think it's, I don't know, it's just a very cool detail that they left on this action figure. She did come with some extra heads, just like April. She has 2. Here she is with her Scarlet Mortal Kombat mask. And, you know, this looks good. You know, obviously a lot of the details here are exactly the same. They just put a mask over the lower part of it. You know, the eyes are the same. Even the hair is exactly the same. They just removed the bandana in the back here. You know, I think it's a cool option if you want to change her face a little bit. And now here she is with her third head. This foot soldier mask head. This is weird. This one is just kind of strange. Like, why did they go this direction, include this mask? Am I missing something? Is this from some continuity that I can't remember? Because it just seems kind of weird that you would give her this like skull mask here, and then her neck, you know, is still showing the skin color. If anything, you would think that they would give her like maybe like a Shredder helmet head, just to kind of show her at the end of City at War. Am I missing something here? Why would they Why did they give her this mask? Because she has these pads on her torso here, I think that makes her torso appear a little bigger, and that works better with the lower legs. I still think the lower legs are like a little too big and the torso could have been a little taller, but it is definitely a lot better. I think whether you look at her in a 3/4 view or a profile view or even from the back, it just proportionally works so much better than April's upper torso. You don't have that like really weird gap between her abdomen and the belt here. Now, because of the pads, that waist swivel is pretty much useless, but whatever. Now you can tell that they either built. All right, here's what I think happened. I think they built Karai first. And then after they made Karai, they decided, you know what, we should use what we can from that model and build Ninja April. Because proportionally, I think she works a lot better than April. I feel like the head is more thought out for this body than April's is. But there are some things that appear on April as well. Because like if you look at this like V-neck in the neck there, that's the same as this. And even if you look at the side of the torso here, like the shapes are pretty much all the same in this upper torso. Now they do have this little added extra bit right here that goes across the front. And that like goes into her underneath her armpit like that. Kind of abruptly stops, so you can't really remove these pads. You're always supposed to keep these up. But then they move around and fall out of place pretty easily. Like I showed you as I was twisting them, they move. I guess they kind of stay pretty well where they're supposed to be. The pads like have this nice grid. I think that works well. I like in the back here these extra red lines. You know, I think that creates a pretty cool design. You know, I'm okay with that. It even looks like the wrinkles are better here. They're a little harsher. You can kind of make them out. And even on this little bit right here in the front, the wrinkles I think are better. You know, it really looks like that fabric is being like stretched across her torso. Another great thing about these pads is they make the shoulders look more appropriate for the body. You know, as I said before, I'm not sure if which action figure came first. I'm leaning towards this one, but like the shoulder blade here looks like it goes better into this baggy cloth shirt. And even when you lift up her arm, you don't see that like weird shape that April had underneath her armpit. From the back, like everything looks fine. It all looks proportionately pretty good. Now, just like April though, like, I don't know, you have the baggy shirt here. And there are some folds or some wrinkles, but they're so light that they are basically pointless. And somebody commented on my last video, my glow-in-the-dark scumbug video, and was talking about how a lot of that is due to these action figures being sculpted in 3D or digitally. And I've sort of been saying something similar to that about like the earlier Ultimates, about how some things seemed a little sterile or too square. And like he was saying that, you know, that's the reason why a lot of these details aren't very deep, you know, because they appear kind of deep in their 3D modeling program, but when they actually print them, it comes out like this. So, you know, that's like something that you would think that they would take into account when they're putting these action figures together. But I guess they're not. Even though it takes them like a year to produce these things after your pre-order, they just can't like fix certain things that seem kind of strange. The wrist wraps are the same as April's, as I said before. And look, her elbows are painted black because it's, you know, her elbow, and you wouldn't have that wrapped up like that. When you move down a little bit, you get to this belt. I think that looks pretty good. You know, I got no complaints. And then you have this extra strap, and I like how you have like little pins to keep that in place. Then it goes around to the back here where there's a spot where you can put her sword. That's nice. Unlike April, she actually has something, interesting on her legs. She has this holster, and I totally got it wrong before when I was talking about her in the package. I said that was a gun holster. It's not. It's actually an arrow holster. She comes with 3 arrows, and I gotta say, like, they don't really fit in there. All 3 don't really fit in there well together, and I don't know. They're like too bulky. Like, they don't really match her style because they are they're just repainted Master Splinter arrows. They could have given her a little bit of a like thinner tipped arrows, because she doesn't necessarily look like a Playmates action figure. She looks more in line of the comic book, or more in line of them, I don't know, kind of going for a more realistic take or something, even though she's very cartoony. But, just like April, the legs, other than that holster there, are the same. Hardly any wrinkles or folds. And then the feet here and the lower legs are wrapped up. And she has these red sandals on. I think this is a very nice Karai. I do like this action figure. I like her more than the Ninja April action figure. I think they did a good job with her. But she does lack the spirit of Playmates Turtles. It's just how it is. And, it's probably because she's more inspired by Karai and Mirage Comics from issues 57. And a better shot of this suit is from 56. Now we're going to take a look at this thing next to this in the comic book, but I mean, come on. That is very similar. Obviously, she's missing a lot of things. She's missing this extra belt here with the pouches. This piece that right here in the middle, that's underneath the pads, but here it's in front of them. But she has like the red bandana. I mean, I'll show you in a little bit, but the bow she has here is the exact same one here. Even the color of the arrows here, like you got the red feather, and the arrowhead looks pretty similar. She's got the wraps all over the arms. The biggest difference is the legs. She does have the arrow holster, but like the lower legs, those are very different. And like I said, we're gonna take a look at the images in the comic book. But before we do that, I just want to mention too that when she wears the scarf, because Super7 gave her a scarf, she reminds me more of Karai from IDW. She's got this red scarf. So as I said, here you can see that she's got like this red bandana on her head. And she's wearing this giant, I don't know, leather coat with these padded shoulder pieces. It's like a leather coat. That front piece there that's buttoned up, that's actually in the front. And then if you look at the toy, that's behind the pads. But like, if you look at her upper arms, like that material there is very puffy, kind of like this action figure sort of is. And then when you get to the arms, it's like all wrapped up and tight. The belt in there is similar, you got the buckle, all that. I think the pants probably appear tighter than they do on the action figure. Just like the action figure, the artwork has 2 straps keeping the arrow holster in place. In issue 57, there is some artwork of her using a sword, but I couldn't find any art from City at War where she uses a Kasari Gama. So if you know what that's from, like why did they give Karai that weapon? Let me know. The artwork inside the comic pretty much looks just like the cover. In my guess, either Kevin Eastman or Peter Laird came up with the model sheet for Karai in this uniform and handed it off to A.C. Farley for the cover and Jim Lawson for the interiors, and they kind of just drew it their way. If you look at the inside, though, like she doesn't have that extra belt with the pouches, but the coat she wears with the padded shoulders are pretty much the same as the cover. Even more exaggerated are the legs. They seem very tight That material seems very tight on her. And she doesn't have wrapped lower legs or wear the sandals that she's got on here. On a side note, this is one of my favorite issues of City at War because Jim Lawson is inked by Keith Aiken. And I think Keith did a really good job of, I don't know, adding some needed detail to Jim Lawson's work. Like, I know Jim Lawson's got fans. I go back and forth. Sometimes I really like his stuff, but sometimes I don't like it. To be honest with you, I think the most of the times when I do like his artwork, it's because the inker has altered it in a way that makes it a little less Lawson-y, you know, because he could draw people's faces very abstract. So it's nice to see, you know, in City at War especially, because it's such a serious comic, like the characters have faces. Some facial structure to them. You know, if they really wanted to go the Playmates route with this action figure, they really could have. They could have really made like a mixture of Mirage and Playmates. You know, you could have taken that piece in the middle of her armor and put it in the front, you know, having all those extra buttons and stuff like that. That would add a lot of extra detail that could be Playmates-esque, I guess. You know, what you could do is leave like 2 of them unbuttoned on the top right, you know, so that it's like the flap is kind of hanging down. They could have added so much here. They could have added some damage to the armor. Anything to make it a little less clean. Like, I don't know. They just could have used a lot more folds in the clothing. Just seems like they cut some corners here and they kind of put this out, you know, as quickly as they possibly could. Karai's articulation is exactly the same as April's. You know, you got the ball, the base of the head, and the base of the neck. She can look up that far. She can look down that far. Her head can spin all around if you wanted to. Her shoulders here rotate, although they get a little limited by the pads there. You can go up that high with the hinge. At the top of the bicep, there's a swivel. And down here at the elbow, it swivels and there's a hinge. Same deal with the hands, the wrist joints there, you know, same as April. No torso cut in here. You can try to rotate her around, but as I showed you before, the pads start to move. So it can be a problem. And can these pads, are they part of the belt? Are the pads a part of the belt and a part of the pelvis so that they won't like actually like pull out of there? I think that's what's going on. It might be a separate piece underneath. So you can bend back a little bit, but not much. And you can move, you can't really move forward, just like April. Same hip joints as April. Nothing new here. And then the same exact knee articulation as April. And pretty much everything that I said that could be a problem. Her ratchet joints aren't very ratchety. They're actually pretty loose. They don't click like April's does. So I guess you can probably get her in better poses than her. Because she's not limited to just like 3 positions. You have a boot cut right here. And then down here at the ankle you have a hinge and ankle rockers. And that is it. You know, you have these like overlays on top of the pelvis. I feel like this gets in the way a bit, you know, from raising her leg any higher than that. Like, how is she supposed to do like a flying ninja kick if she can't even like raise it up very far? She can't bend forward. She's like a woman who's got like back problems and she can't bend over. She's like, I would kick you, but it hurt my back. Now on to accessories, and first up is her katana. Now this katana is the same katana that Leonardo had, and it is also the same katana that April had. The only difference is black and red, like her color scheme. Unfortunately, since it's the same one that April has, it's going to be a pain in the ass getting this giant handle here into that tiny little grip hole. And again, just like April, her hand is completely fused shut there. The thumb is connected to the pointer finger. What was the purpose of that? What are the point of having gripping hands if they're completely closed? Alright, so I cut the hand and I got the katana in place. But look at this. She's got the same problem that April has. A very loose wrist. Not as bad as April's. Yet. But it's only a matter of time. Like, they should have given them their... See that? They should have given them their own katana blades. This one looks pretty big compared to her too. I guess, I don't know. It looks very big compared to her size. So as I said earlier, there is a spot here in the back of her belt where you can put the katana blade, but I mean, that's pretty close there. That's like you bend over and you're chopping off your ass cheek. Up next, you have two classic Ninja Turtle weapons. You have the Kama, which was included with all those, you know, original 1988 action figures. Well, most of them. And then you also have one of the fist daggers. So I guess maybe Super7 is trying to, you know, make this Karai action figure sort of like a, the basic Ninja Turtle action figure. You know, welcome her into the fold by giving her some classic items that we've seen 100 times in this toy line so far, you know, because Shredder had these, the guys had these, I think Splinter had them too. But just like the katana, this is made for the Ninja Turtles, and this handle here is gigantic. The fist dagger is at least a little smaller, I think, just by a little bit. But I don't know. Trying to get these things in her hand is a pain in the neck. There you go. Now she looks like a classic action figure, right? Up next is the Kasuri Gama. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't remember exactly. But I both love and kind of hate this thing. All right. I love it because it's such a cool item. You know, the chain looks really awesome. I love the steel ball at the end. That way you can hit people in the head, or you could just, you know, cut them with the sickle end. But it also drives me crazy because I accidentally created a knot in this earlier, and it took me about 20 minutes to try to unknot it. Man, it was a pain in the ass. So this thing just looks awesome in her hands. You know, I like that a lot. This is the hand that I was using for the katana, so it is a little stretched out, but it's holding this pretty well. And of course, you know, this like sickle end, like you could tell that this rod was made specifically for her because, I mean, the size of this thing is roughly the same size as the hole in the gripping hand. I don't know, I kind of would, like, if I display her, I would probably have her holding this, maybe. I don't know, it's either this or the bow, because the bow is such a classic weapon for her to have. But like I said, I like this a lot. The real chain really makes this a very special accessory. So up next you have Karai's bow and arrows. And I think that this bow is very, very cool looking. I don't know anything about bows, so I don't know what all these like wheels and stuff like that are. Only, I guess, what does it make the string really tight? I don't know. The design of this thing is just pretty cool looking, and it's, of course, her colors, black and red. If you look at this thing next to the bow on the cover, I mean, it looks pretty much exactly like that bow. So that's pretty awesome. I'm using a regular gripping hand in the left hand there, and on the right side, she also comes with these two fingers like this, you know, kind of like April had them to hold the computer or camera. You can have her use this to hold a arrow, but it seems as though it's going to be a little difficult. One thing I'll say is the string on this thing is nowhere near as good as the string on the Master Splinter bow. Like, that thing was super tight, and you could really fire the arrows. So you can, let's see here. it's kind of difficult to grab it because of her articulation. Like, you kind of have to hold it at a weird angle, I guess. So this was really hard to fake. I have her using this two-fingered gripping hand to hold the string at the back. And then in the front here, I have her using her finger, or her hand where she's pointing her finger out. What I had to try to do was somehow squeeze the arrow between the thumb and the middle finger right there. It's barely holding on. And then the arrow is just kind of laying down on top of these fingers right here. You know, it's not really kept in place by the string or anything like that. So it can be done, but, you know, as soon as I move her around, like, that thing's going to fall off. But, I mean, if you can fake it and get it to work, it actually looks pretty sweet. Oh my gosh. I feel so stupid, but it just took me until now to realize that the promo shot that Super7 used to sell Karai is an homage to the cover of issue 56 from, you know, Mirage Ninja Turtles. I don't know why it took me so long to get that, but I think what's even worse than that for me personally is I just realized now by looking at that cover that I've been holding a bow and arrow wrong like my entire life. I always thought you like shot like sort of used your thumb to lead the arrow. No, you use the other side of the bow and use your pointer finger. I swear to God, I had no idea. So I guess that's why they got the pointer finger there. Man, I feel bad. So you can try to get her in this pose, but it is a little difficult. You know, it's tough trying to get the arrow in the right spot between her fingers to hold that. And just her articulation really hinders, like, I don't know, making that look correct. Like, you can't have it pointing down like the cover. Like, you pretty much have to have the arrow and the bow pointing upwards a little bit. It's more of like a 45-degree angle from her body. I also used this time to learn that this is a compound bow. And compound bows, according to Google, use a levering system of pulleys and cables, which, once drawn past a certain point, require almost no strength to hold fully drawn. Interesting. These mechanics make the compound bow faster and more accurate than other types of bow. I had no idea. I'm learning something new every day. Up next, you just have her arrows. And as I said before, you get 3 of these, and they are just the same mold as the arrows that came with Splinter. You can try to fit them in this holster here, but as I showed you before, it doesn't work out well. Like, it doesn't look good. And as I said, I wish they would have given her smaller arrows because they just look a little comical next to her. And here you can see one of these arrows next to the arrow on the cover of issue 56, just so you can see that the colors are very similar. Karai also comes with 2 ninja stars. You know, these are the same ninja stars that came with April, and the same exact hands, so of course she can hold these ninja stars. And all that's left is just a large assortment of hands. She has 5 sets of hands, just like April. She's got a pair of gripping hands with vertical hinge, a pair of gripping hands with a horizontal hinge, and then she's got a pair of fists. That one flew across the room. It was trying to knock me out. She's got a pair of karate chopping hands, no expressive hands or reaching hands. And then you have these hands, which are a set, but they are unique. The one is the pointer finger. To either point at your enemies, or like I showed you before, try to use it with the bow and arrow. And then the other one is the 2-finger gripping hand that also worked with the bow and arrows. And that is all. I almost forgot. There's one other accessory, and that's the scarf. Now this is cool. I think it's nice that they included this. I probably won't ever use this. I just kind of like her without the scarf. But, you know, if you want to use it, go ahead. And there's a bendy wire in there so you can keep the shape of this scarf. I just kind of think, like, it's not I don't know, as believable as maybe, like, if the material would have been a little thinner or something like that. But I think it's, I think it's perfectly fine. All right, finally, after like 3 hours, we are finally at a point where I'm sure a lot of people were hoping we would get to, showing these brand new ultimates next to past ultimates. And first, I wanted to show them next to all the humanoids or robotic humanoids in this line, because I think that, maybe you can look past their designs when they're next to the turtles and stuff like that, but they're human characters, and you want to see how they match these other human characters, because these human characters are stylized human characters, and these human characters are a little watered down. I almost think a little bit like, I don't know, I could sort of see this Karai next to that Shredder. Like, I think height wise, they look pretty decent. But one thing you'll notice right off the bat with looking at these characters next to the other characters is there's just so much less detail on them than those other characters. They may look fine next to them, but they lack a certain dynamic quality. I mean, look at the foot soldier here. He looks like he's about ready to jump right at me. They, on the other hand, just look a little stiff. And, I will say, even Casey Jones is a little stiff. I've said, I think in his review, he is not a favorite of mine. They shrunk his torso down, so he's got these like gigantic arms and a very skinny body. It's kind of goofy looking. He's got a gigantic head that kind of doesn't look right next to them. I could sort of like get past the Shredder's giant head, because at least he's got like a helmet on. You could kind of pretend in your head like, oh, well, that helmet like really adds a lot to the size of that thing. But if you do look at like the skin in there, it is really big. One good thing about these brand new ladies is they're taller than the original April. So I think that height actually looks better next to these other human characters. If you take out like Casey and the Shredder, and you put them next to like Donatello here, I think maybe that fares a little better, because I don't know, I feel like that Donatello action figure could pretty much go with any design. Like there's nothing about these that clash, because he's not a human character. He's a anthropomorphic turtle. But Shredder, he just has, like I said, there's the detail on him makes these two stand out. Especially like all the wrinkles in the pants and all the muscle definition. Now, you don't want to give April gigantic biceps or anything like that, but like just even the folds of the clothes and the any wrinkles and stuff. Once you start adding all the monster mutants in this line, like they just really stand out. Like they don't look like they match the other characters, both in tone and also detail and paint. Because I mean, look at, Splinter's got a lot of detail on him, but I mean, Muckman is covered in detail and lots of different paint apps, Now you may say, well, Donatello doesn't have a lot of paint on him, but he looks like he matches that Muckman. If you look at Rocksteady is covered in like realistic rhino hide detail. Like the texture of his skin looks sort of realistic, and he's got like a wash, and it's really bring out the cracks and crevices of the wrinkles and all that stuff like that. Like he looks awesome. Even his helmet looks somewhat realistic. But these two characters, they just lack that. They're very simple. Now, the thing is you may be thinking, well, Gary, that's because, maybe this is meant to be a Mirage Karai, right? But, I mean, seriously, do you think that if Super7 starts to make, like, Mirage Ninja Turtles, like, everybody's just going to jump on that thing? Like, Super7, I had a lot of goodwill for them, but at this point in time, it's like a lot of my interest is waning in the stuff that they're putting out. Like, if they start putting out Mirage Ninja Turtles, Like, I'm not going to buy them. Like, I already have NECA Mirage Ninja Turtles. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not going to pay $55 for another set of Mirage Ninja Turtles. I loved what they were doing here with these guys. You know, you can do things like Ninja April and Karai, but try to make them sort of in this crazy, zany 80s and 90s style. Like Karai here, I think is a good action figure, but she just kind of she looks like she's trying to be Mirage, but even that, like, she's just not fully getting to there. Like, she's just sort of in this middle ground. And I feel kind of like a dick because like I said, I think that she's an adequate action figure. I just think that she doesn't match these other characters. It's kind of like whenever Marvel Legends switched from Toy Biz to Hasbro, and you were starting to get these new Marvel Legends action figures, and they just did not fit in with the old ones, and it was just jarring. And eventually, like, I gave up on that line until eventually Hasbro got way better, and I started buying again. Here's Ninja April and Karai next to some of NECA's Mirage action figures, and scale wise they actually fit in pretty well with them. I mean, the legs are probably a little longer than most of the action figures have. Even the characters with long legs, like April, the legs go up really high, and then the torso is kind of squished. But I don't know. I could see how Karai could possibly fit in with these because she was based off the Mirage comics version of Karai. But again, that lack of detail on her body really does a disservice to her, because I think that she could have been a really great action figure, and I do like her. It's hard to find, I guess, a space for these two. All right, so next up is the Ultimates comparison battle, and this is honestly going to be a lot shorter than usual because usually what I do is I'll take like the standard version of the figure, like I'll have Leonardo, and then I'll show like all the Leonardos throughout time. Well, I already did that with April with her standard action figure, and I have gotten a few Aprils since then, but there's really no point in doing it because this April is a variant April. She's not standard. So I'll just show a couple Aprils next to her. Like I have the original 1988 April. This one is the no stripe variant. I believe that she was the first one that came out. She's got a little bit of the plastic rot on her leg, which is unfortunate. You can see those dark spots on her leg there. Means she's rotten away. April doesn't have long for this world. So another variant, and I showed this one during the standard one, but here is April from movie 3. This one, and that face sculpt, not good. She looks like a ventriloquist dummy. Now here's an April variant that is amazing, and that's this Bride of Frankenstein April from the Universal Studios Monsters series. That one's very awesome. I like that one a lot. And all that's really left is, standard April from this series. We've gone over the two of them next to each other ad nauseum. And then I'll just show the newer April from the Fred Wolf series. And unfortunately, I can't put her like right next to her because I still just have her in the box. You might be wondering, why, Gary, is she still in the box? Well, it's because I plan on doing a review of this figure. I just have to get to it. I have like... At this point, I think I have about 10 Fred Wolf action figures that I still have to review and do very in-depth research about all the accessories. This April at least won't be hard to know all these in here, so that should be a quick one, I hope. We'll see. Up next is Karai, and I am sad to say I really don't own any other Karai action figures. I only have one other Karai, and it's not even mine. It's my son's that I bought for him. I did at one point have the 2007 Karai. I think that was a pretty cool Karai action figure. I sold all my 2007 figures years and years ago because they were just sitting in a box, and I kind of wish I kept them all, but whatever. But that one was cool. It had a very cool mask face, just like in the movie. I'm pretty sure she wears it. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie too. But that action figure was all right. Then there does exist a 2003 Karai, and as you can see here, toy sculptors have always had a hard time sculpting female action figures because, I don't know, that one's kind of weird looking, not very good. Now, the only Karai that I have in my house is this Karai. Now, they made two Karais for the 2012 series. You have the Snake Karai, and then you have this plain Karai. And I think people were asking for years and years about getting this regular human version of Karai, because they put out the snake version first. Like, why would they do that? So everybody was bugging them, like, you need to put out the human Karai. Like, this is what everybody wanted. And somehow I found this. I think I got it at my local comic book store once they got like a bunch of Ninja Turtle toys in. They got a collection off of somebody who was getting out of it. And I bought a ton of them, like a lot of the later releases for my son because he was a huge fan of that show. So, I got Karai here, I got Super Shredder, and a bunch of others. But, this Karai is okay. It looks just like the show. I don't think the articulation is the best because at this point, Playmate's articulation is not that great, and I think that her legs seem to be a little wobbly, like she probably falls over a lot. But as a version of or a toy of the 2012 Karai, I think this, looks pretty good. I'd have to actually compare it to screenshots to see how accurate it is. But after that, I do not have any other Karais. I do plan on getting the Last Ronin Karai because I think that's a pretty awesome looking action figure. I just haven't gotten her because, to be honest with you, I haven't bought a lot of the Last Ronin action figures because everything is just too much money nowadays. Like, there's way too many Ninja Turtle series going on at the same time, and if I buy any more Ninja Turtle toys, I'm gonna get divorced. All right, that's what's gonna happen. So I have to either wait for it to go down in price or wait until there's a point where I got a little bit of extra money, I can finally buy that Karai. But I really like it. I like how she just looks like an Elektra ripoff. Even in that comic book, I was just thinking, like, they just drew Elektra. But, I don't know. Elektra's cool. Did you ever read Elektra Assassin? Now, that is one awesome miniseries. Bill Sienkiewicz was killing it with that one. There's another Karai that just came out recently, and people were finding it at Target this week. But unfortunately, I didn't find her at Target by me. And even if I did, I already spent a shitload of money on other NECA action figures. So I would have passed anyways. Because eventually, I hope you'll be able to get that cool Shredder Karai at Big Bad Toy Store. It seems like all the other Mirage figures have made it there. So I would assume that Karai did. So hopefully in the future, I plan on getting Karai and the Rat King, because that Rat King is pretty amazing too. But that is it. The brand new Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates, Ninja April and Karai, are ferocious female fighters, fighting for the forces of good and evil. And more importantly, fighting for the future of Super 7's relevance as a TMNT toy maker. Look, I know I sound a little negative, but I'm going to be blunt here. At the time I'm making this video, these figures have been out for about a month now, and April only has about 3 to 4 YouTube reviews, and Karai has like 2 to 3. None of these videos have even hit 1,000 views, so I'm sure this review won't fare much better, unfortunately for me. None of these reviews have been made by the bigger toy review guys, who I think for the most part have abandoned Super 7 due to quality problems and price. It's just people like me still buying this. So Super 7, they need to put the asses back in the seats. I said in the beginning of this video that, they had to do everything they could to try to wow the collectors to stay on board here, I said that, at the time I pre-ordered these characters, I was kind of and I wanted to be all right, but To be honest with you, at the end of this, still kind of meh, you know, these are okay. You know, I don't feel like I was ripped off. I just don't feel like, you know, this was the best $110 I ever spent either, you know. I'm in the middle of with these characters. Both figures are decent enough, and I feel like the faces look good. You know, sometimes Super 7 human figures are a little derpy or goofy, and I've seen some reviews where their eyes are way off, but luckily mine are on point, and I think the sculptor did a really good job with their facial features. But past that, you know, the usual Super 7 proportion problems remain a staple in this series, you know, with April's torso being way too small and both characters having, I don't know, larger legs than I think they should have. I think the sculpts are competent, but they do lack like the extra flair that earlier Ultimates had, you know, whether it be because they were based off the Playmates action figures or because they just had more details in general and more textures and, you know, whatever else. The amount of accessories I think are good. The sickle and steel ball, that's my way of saying it, is my favorite. You know, I think that's the best accessory here because it's like a brand new one and I like the real chain. But even though the accessories are plentiful, you know, they should have shrunk them down. They're way too big for their hands. And what really drives me nuts is I showed you many times in this, the weight of the sword will make the hand spin around. You know, there is no friction for whatever reason, or just the weight of the sword will just cause the hand to spin around in circles. The bow does it too. On both action figures, you know, it's not just April. So it makes your sword posing very limited because the sword will tip over. I think the spinning wrists and April's wobbly head are the worst articulation problems I had with these figures. The hips are pretty stiff and they keep still, but I don't know. I feel like maybe April might be, you know, if I keep on moving around, I could get there. They were perfectly fine when I was shooting these action shots, but I would say that their legs are probably the most limited legs in the line, you know, maybe after Baxter Stockman, and I'm sure there's some other characters. It's just that the hips and the knees don't rotate enough. And I feel like, you know, there's not much you could really do with the feet. So it's hard to get them into any kind of action poses or like really push the expression. Running, leaping, kicking, all of those poses are a little tricky because you can't really get expressive with it and have them like really pose in an exciting way. But go back through this series of action shots, right? And look at their legs. You know, they're sort of stiff and you can't really bend the knee far enough. On the plus side, they didn't fall over all the time like some of the other action figures. Like Ray Fillet was disgusting with how much that guy fell over. That was such a bummer. And I guess I would say that I really did have a lot of fun creating this scene because April reminds me so much of the bride from Kill Bill, you know? And overall, I think they actually do look pretty decent next to the other Ultimates in these shots. It's just, you can't take a closer look at them, all right? Because once you take a closer look, you start to notice that something's missing, and that's detail. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and talk to you later.